Today, my wife and I are visiting Colonial Williamsburg, an amazing living history museum in Virginia that tells the early part of America's enduring story. Come along with me and my wife as we explore a history buff's paradise. That's coming up next.
Good morning.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Powder Magazine.
Thank you.
This is where the militia would muster. It's where they would store ammunition, gunpowder, muskets, other supplies. It was a military storehouse. It's one of our 88 original buildings at Colonial Williamsburg. So thank you for having your tickets and maps. You can head on in. We have an interpreter to the right who can answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Very good. How are you? Excellent. So it looks like you have a fascinating setup.
Yeah, I got a few things out. This gives you an idea of what was in the magazine itself. It's a military storehouse, so it contains all military supplies. It's everything but food. So perishables can't be stored here for that reason, but everything, needles and thread, cooking utensils, musical instruments, uniforms, tents, then gunpowder, arms. So when you think about gunpowder and arms, that's only a small fraction of the inventory. And the way we have it laid out is the heavy equipment on the first floor, arms on the second floor, commissary goods on the third floor. Commissary would be the musical instruments, the fabric, the lighter stuff. And only British troops can use what's inside. You're in a royal colony. The locals can't touch this stuff.
So basically, if this was in
a British regiment, you got to make an appointment, have a printed return, which is an invoice signed by the colonel. I mean, there's a lot of red tape. You just can't walk in here and grab stuff because it's inventory. It's government property. And nothing irks me more than the Hollywood image of everybody running around grabbing stuff. It's not going to happen. It didn't happen when we rebelled. Even when we rebelled in 1775 and took over the inventory, when we distributed the equipment from here to our first regiments that formed in the fall of 1775, it's still run by officials. You still have to make an appointment and you still have to have an invoice. It's just now it's going out to the good guys, but there's still red tape because it's still inventory. We still need to monitor what's leaving here because we want to know what we need. So yeah, nothing Hollywoody about this time period. So the only thing that's going to change is when we go to war with England, it's hard to get stuff because we can't make muskets fast enough over here. We're not an industrial power. And in fact, there's only one, and that's England. England was the first industrial nation.
So how did America get weapons when they
Stuff
were
from smugglers in the Dutch West Indies. So nothing matches because we're buying stuff from crooks. So we're buying equipment that's coming from 5 or 6 different countries. And there's no guarantee of quality because you're getting it from criminals. So it's not a good plan, but we don't have any choice. Until France finally agrees to become our ally and declare war on England, and then we just start using French everything. So the French Navy, the French Army, 250,000 muskets, a bunch of artillery, then things start looking up. But if we didn't have France to supply us or back us, we would have lost the war. I mean, we didn't easily win the revolution. It took 8 years with France's help and advisors from Prussia and Poland. I mean, we had a lot of backers. And other people that don't like England. But we had a lot of assistance. I mean, George Washington is not alone. He's got people like General Rochambeau and Lafayette and General von Steuben, Baron von Riedesel. He's got a lot of people you don't hear about that much.
How y'all doing?
Very good. How are you?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Just chatting, enjoying the weather.
Yeah, it's nice today.
I know. You kind of got to enjoy the 4 good weeks you get in Virginia.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Not super hot or not super cold.
So are you guys portraying part of the magazine, or is this a different
No, this
setup?
is all magazine. Yeah,
Okay.
This is guardhouse. The guardhouse was built during the French and Indian War because they put a guard on the magazine. Didn't have a guard on it the rest of the 18th century, but during the French and Indian War they hired 12 men, and they didn't live here. They were 12 men that lived in town, but they used this as their kind of break room. So when you weren't on duty, you know, guarding the magazine, you could be in here having lunch or whatever. And we actually use this as our break room today.
We have replaced the tin coffee kettle with a Keurig, but you know, other than that,
Nice.
So I wanted to ask, the difference in hats, is that just a style preference, or is there, you know, just some meaning behind the hats?
Well, this
or?
is round hat. This would have been fairly common with militia. That's what I'm dressed up. I'm in a hunting shirt. This would have been a militia outfit. He's in a more, you know, continental type. He doesn't have his coat on, but he's got his, you know, waistcoat on and a tricorn on.
yeah, the cocked hat tricorn tends to be a bit more of a military look. Not that civilians aren't wearing it, but especially this particular design. This is adopted by the State Garrison Regiment, which is who we're portraying. And it's very handy, and I know most people kind of look at it and think it's not a very versatile hat, but not only does it kind of stay out of the way of your gun, but you can also flip it around, untie the ties, and flip the brim down. So it does provide a fair bit of cover as well if you need it to.
Nice.
Plus it's it's fancy, and that's what really counts.
Yeah, a lot of the 18th century was just fashion. Especially with men. I mean, men, you know, sometimes dressed fancier than the women did back then.
Higher heels too.
To the point where, you know, a lot of settlers that came here, especially ones that came like from Scotland or a place where they had a pretty mild climate or temperate climate, they came here with their full outfits, you know, wool coats and waistcoats. And the thing is, you couldn't, it just was considered ungentlemanly to go out in public not fully dressed. So go out with, you know, short sleeves and without your waistcoat on, you know, just your shirt on. That nobody did that except
It's
tradesmen.
naked.
So they were walking around with all that on 100-degree days, yeah, and passing out on the streets. It's like, you know, you guys could take some of that stuff off, but no, you had to look good when you went out in public.
Of course.
Well, that's a wrap for this Colonial Williamsburg video. I hope you really enjoyed it, getting to see another part of this amazing living history museum. If you like this sort of stuff, check out my other videos. Check out colonialwilliamsburg.org to plan your own visit here, because it's so much cooler in real life than it is on film. Till next time, this is History Buff, TN Photobug signing out, and I'm having a blast with the past.